Mike, it's Jimmy. I'm here. Mike.
Once again, it's Gabe Morales with Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians. Today, we are going to focus on the subject of hate crimes in America. I have with me two gentlemen who are very versed in some of the problems and can give some suggestions for possibly some solutions, how we can deal with this problem that is a major issue in America, I believe, and I believe many Americans also agree with that. I'd like to introduce Matson Browning. He is the author of The Hate Next Door. He is the founder of the Supremacist Intelligence Network, or SIN. He was a sergeant who worked with the Mesa PD in Arizona for over 20 years. And he was also assigned multiple federal FBI and joint task forces to attack this problem. He was an intel consultant and worked undercover targeting white supremacist groups in America for many years and is a court-certified gang expert. David Schilling has worked in corrections since the year 2006 and has served in many different roles, including corrections officer, security threat group intelligence worker. He has been an academy instructor and has been an expert witness. His expertise lies in hate groups, extremists, gangs, and jail intelligence, specifically with the use of Norse runes, symbology, as well as pagan belief systems of the Satru and Odinism, which have been adopted by some white supremacist groups. He is also the author of two books, Norse Dramatic Runes and Symbols, a field reference guide for law enforcement and corrections, as well as the Jail Intelligence Manual. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Morning.
So, can you tell our listeners, what does a hate crime mean and what motivates somebody to commit a hate crime?
Hate crime, by the standard definition, is anything that's motivated by bias, prejudice against a person for their race, for instance, maybe sexual orientation, religion they follow, nationality, skin color, any of that stuff. As far as that. And as far as motivation for somebody to commit one, usually what I've always found is people that do that have some sort of a grievance against that particular group or against society in general, and they take their frustrations out on that group. Could be for any number of reasons that grievance exists.
So, Matson, maybe you can answer this question. What are some of the major past incidents involving hate groups, and what are some of the major hate groups in America?
Well, when we're talking in the past, we can start back in the late 70s when you had Tom Metzger and David Duke joining up together and forming a militia group in San Diego, going out and harassing immigrants. Then you fast forward, you have Ruby Ridge, you have Waco, you have Oklahoma City bombing, you have the Texas Republican Army standoff, you have the Order. I mean, the Order was like the granddaddy of them all for a while. That's with Robert Matthews and David Lane doing armored car robberies across the U.S. and they finally end up killing a Jewish talk show host. But if you go back, into the 2000s, then you got the Pittsburgh shooting, the Moss shooting, that was all hate related. The majority of mass shootings, in Buffalo, Pittsburgh, San Diego, Florida, they've all been hate related.
Are a lot of these, in particular, I'm thinking of mass shootings, are a lot of these lone wolf white supremacist individuals that are involved?
Well, that's what it's turning into now because a lot of these guys are being indoctrinated online and they get upset and then they'll go and search. But they're getting the indoctrination from somewhere. So where they're hearing the rhetoric is either online from family, reading books. I mean, it's the list of things where people are being radicalized is endless. And so back, you have the Hammerskins came to the United States and you had Volksfront, you had Vinlanders, you have all the local crews, American Front, you have and everything. Now you have the Patriot movement that's kind of sucked everything up, the Proud Boys. And so it's more from this shaved head laced embrace thing into a more almost college educated type, the fight clubs. It's just endless, the different things that you can go and find.
Can either of you explain some of the national laws against hate crimes? And do you feel that those laws have worked? Why or why not?
Thinking back, it would all start with the Civil Rights Act, I would think, from the 60s. You had people getting upset, like the Klan, for instance, about, they're going to desegregate schools, they're going to do all that stuff. Not allowed to use force against people based on race, things like that. Kind of the next one comes to mind, I think about Matthew Shepard, back when he was drugged behind a pickup truck, killed, stuff like that.
I think with going off what David said is that everybody has their own laws. Every state has their own laws, and federally and state laws are different. So in order to document a hate crime, you have to know that hate crimes occurred. And the problem we're having now is a lot of the hate crimes aren't even documented because the victims, out of fear of deportation or out of fear of retaliation, whatever their fear is, they won't report it. And so when it goes to trial, if we actually do have a hate crime that goes to trial, nobody really prosecutes it because everybody's different. I know in Arizona, there is no hate crime law on the books, but they go to the sentence enhancements and they'll add maybe, hey, he was participating in a hate group, in a skinhead crew, whatever it might be. And that's where I think we all need to be better as far as prosecutors and judges and laws and lawmakers, and even down to the police officers. Document what happened. Because, I mean, we just had a guy in Arizona that was booted to death because he's gay. And the two booters, one guy got 3 years, and another guy looks like they're going to possibly plea him out to manslaughter. Now, why would you ever plea a murderer out to a simple manslaughter when they savagely and brutally beat somebody to death because of his sexual orientation? And that's where this whole hate crimes laws and hate crimes, in just my opinion, they should never be pled out.
Well, you bring up a very interesting topic that I actually almost forgot, and I just did a crime statistics in America video on how they can be skewed. And so it sounds like if it isn't even documented, well, first of all, if it isn't reported, it's not going to be considered to be a stat. And
Mhm.
the way different jurisdictions classify crimes, it may not be classified as a hate crime. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's look at it. When I was in patrol, call. You had to handle this call, and then you were pulled to another call, then you had a hot call. And when it boils down to it, you forget to check that one box that says hate crime or racially motivated, whatever each agency has. And so hate crimes are not reported. I think hate crime statistics are skewed drastically because there's no proper documentation of them. I think it's a lot higher than what the FBI statistics say.
Whether it's by human error or just a lack of knowledge, maybe on the officer's part of what they're actually seeing in front of them.
Exactly.
Sounds like we have a big problem there. We may not know even what we're dealing with, don't have a very scientific or statistical grasp on how big the problem is. You mentioned some of the social media sites, different groups. What are some of the social media sites that are currently out there that these guys are using?
Biggest one that comes to my mind, Stormfront. It's
Is
the
Stormfront
mecca.
still out there?
Oh yeah, it's the mecca of hate, and so then you have all your different 4chan, 8chan, your different chat, all the
Discord
underground
and
stuff, yeah, Discord, all this stuff. It's what's crazy is you can get with a 12-year-old kid and he can point all this stuff out to you because they're all tech savvy and they can all find the stuff.
mhm.
Interesting. Is there, I know they talk about the dark web. Do these guys use the dark web a lot too?
In my
Mm,
dealings with them, it depends on how dark they are. If they're out wanting to kill immigrants coming across the border, then they're using like Hushmail and Signal and different things that they think can't be traced and tracked to communicate with each other. They're not going to go online and do this stuff. These are small cells of people that just come in contact with each other and then they continue, to talk through these supposed networks that can't be traced or tracked.
yeah, they might be using some low-tech stuff like common email account where they write an email, save it to drafts, the other person logs in and reads it. It's never sent over the internet.
Yeah, there's so much they can do. It goes back to how it used to be too. If they're military trained, law enforcement trained, they're not going to use any type of social media. They're going to go back to their training and just show up at their houses or meetings and talk.
And I imagine even then they're probably conscious that there may be infiltrators, like you were able to successfully infiltrate groups. Are they checking like for people wired up or places wired up and that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, things morph, they change. They started to do polygraphs. They get a guy that is polygraph certified and get the machine and start doing polygraphs on people. They're doing background checks on people. They're doing everything's online now. You can go online and just Google someone's name and get everything. And so that's why backstopping and doing all the things undercovers do is so important. That's great and fine and dandy, but actually going into the meeting, if you have anything that makes you law enforcement, whatever it might be, they're going to find it. And that's why it's difficult these days to get involved. And then you have at least 6 months to earn their trust. and then another year to really earn their trust to go out on the hunting cruise.
The way you could really play that off probably is to be, I infiltrated law enforcement and that's why I'm here,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
You just spin it back on you.
Hmm.
Undercover work is definitely tough. So both of you have mentioned some incidents that have happened with hate groups. What are some of the bigger, more recent incidents involving hate crimes and hate crime groups?
I think they continue. I don't think it's ever stopped. What I think has changed. I mean, you have the Patriot Front people in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, getting pulled over in the U-Haul on
Hmm.
their way to a rally. You have people showing up at city halls and city councils that are expressing their disbeliefs in the government.
Flyer drops too.
Oh yeah, flyer drops all over the place. And that's a funny thing, people would think that flyer drops are a thing of the past, but when I was sitting in the Denny's rolling up the flyers with the guys and talking to them, I'm looking at us going, you guys spent like $300 just at Kinko's to get this stuff copied. And then you're throwing pennies or rocks into the bag so you can throw them out the windows. How much money are you wasting here? It's not about the money. It's about you can throw 1,500 flyers. And if you contact one person through that, it's a success. They get
Hmm.
more people feedback. They get more media looking at this group, which then blows up their names and their organization's name and brings more people in. It's actually, I hate to say it, but it's pretty smart.
They've been using corn and rice to weigh the bags down. And somebody from Wisconsin asked me about this because they had that happen in their city. And I think the issue with it is you can go right on the Aryan Freedom Network website, print off all your flyers. So it could be one person in the community doing it. You could have a group of 20, you just don't know.
So it makes it
Interesting.
so scary.
On January 6, 2021, the entire nation watched an incident in Washington, D.C., where some people call them freedom fighters, political protesters. Most people agree not everybody involved in that were violent. However, 174 police officers were hurt, 15 went to the hospital, and within days of the incident, several of them committed suicide. President Trump has called the people that participated in that event, the people that said, hang Mike Pence as vice president, he called them political hostages.